Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Max Depth. The podcast where we are actively trying to investigate, I would say, both the material and for some reason material feels necessary but not sufficient. I want to say we're investigating the material structure of reality, but reality is more than that. Because my question is, if we had a final physics, a science that explained everything, would it be able to explain our subjective feeling of what it's like to be a human being? Like, of course, the actual feelings themselves, the sadness, the pain, those can all be mapped. Those are electrochemical pathways in the brain, connected with the nervous system, reacting. But the reflection on those feelings, maybe that's a little bit human centric of me to assume that wouldn't be covered in material reality. I'm just confused where that is. I guess it definitely would still be happening in the brain, because my belief is that everything can be explained by a full understanding of the brain. So, which contradicts my original point that a full understanding of material reality would be sufficient in explaining everything. But the problem is, any investigation into material reality in which we conduct in a specific way with a specific brain state. This is why drugs are so interesting, psychedelics specifically, because a chemical change in your brain alters how you perceive reality. So it's when we're embarking on this investigation into the fundamental nature of material reality, which we hope would provide us with some benefit, or else why are we doing it? When we're embarking on the investigation in material reality, we must remember that we're doing it locked inside of a specific perspective in a lot of ways. And it's really, really difficult to get outside of that perspective. And it's, I think, what makes philosophy both so interesting and so frustrating, because it's like you can almost find an answer a lot of the time. Like what I feel, I don't know if this is accurate or if this is just a subjective feeling or if it's both, is that I'm getting close to an answer. I'm running up right behind it. And then something tells me, it's just oh, that wasn't even what I was looking for. I'm a little bit off. It's I think I have the answer. I get super close to it. I'm about to pounce on it. And then I see the gazelle's not a gazelle, it's something else. And it's not even what I was really looking for. And so maybe I should pay even more attention to that, because maybe who knows what that could teach me. That's the dream of alchemy, or it was, because no one's really practicing alchemy too much. They don't know it, at least. You could say that modern science is a giant practice of alchemy, because alchemy, the dream was that if you investigated material reality with enough attention, that you would be able to find the Philosopher's Stone, which is the answer to everything. And it's the same as us using science to search for a theory of everything, which we may or may not be getting closer to. Right now, from my understanding at least, we have quantum mechanics, which is a really accurate way of understanding the really small. a strange, strange way, but a very accurate way of understanding the small and general relativity, which was Einstein's theory, and I believe general and special relativity. I'd known the difference at one point. I can't recall them now. I'm not going to lie, which explains the larger things in the universe. If I could say that any more dumb, I couldn't. And so I think the question now is, how do we merge those two? Which is reasonable. You have a theory of the small, a theory of the large. It's not a theory of the medium, it's a theory of everything. So I'm just confused on if we found a theory of everything, would it be a theory of everything, hypothetically, of course, because I don't think we're really that close. I mean, there's loop quantum gravity, which I've done some reading about. Do I understand it? No. But is it a final theory? Is it, I doubt it, right? I mean, who knows? I'm just saying, if we're thinking of this hypothetical theory of everything, wouldn't it be a theory of everything locked inside of its own perspective, which would make it a theory of everything within that perspective, but not a true theory of everything, including all perspectives? Like, it would be basically like saying there's like many different universes, and there's a theory of everything in one universe, but maybe it was completely different. There's different laws in another universe. Why am I saying all this? Why do I love thinking about this? I don't know. Why do I? Okay, it's gotta be something like when I learned this from Jordan Peterson. When a cat gets dropped into a room, the first thing it does is explore and map everything. It climbs on on all the corners. It can get to a crack, and if it sees a locked door, just like if we have a locked door, you could say that we populate it with what we imagine to lie in the unknown, and maybe what lies in the unknown is monsters. Who knows what? It's like the fear of the dark. So when the cat's dropped in the room, it tries to map everything. And why does it do that? Well, it wants to know its environment. Obviously, it doesn't want to be in some strange place. You're physiologically impaired when you're in a new place. That's why you sleep worse in hotels a lot of the time, because I feel like some part of your brain, whether it's conscious or unconscious, it has to stay on guard, because it says, Max, you are in a new environment that you don't understand as well as your house at home. You don't know who's sleeping next door, and so we're just going to reserve some energy to be a little bit more attentive. So I think my desire to understand the world is almost like a biological need to feel more comfortable. That's like if you're in a room, this just came to my head, if you're in a room full of 100 strangers versus you're in a room full of 100 really close friends, which one are you going to feel more comfortable in? So I'm trying to map the world, obviously, to operate and act in it more successfully. That's the point. That's why you search for the truth. Because the thought would be, if you did find a theory of everything, you would know there would be a definitive ruling on the correct ways of acting. And we can kind of see that through the consequences of our actions. We can see that there are better and worse ways of acting. All right, so here's another thing. In trying to understand the world, there's a damn lot of it. There's too much of it. It's like I'm not ever going to really be able to know everything. And I don't even know if a computer would be able to know everything, because I think there's an infinite number of things to know. So what do you do when you're trying to understand the world and you're trying to understand things, but there's an infinite number of things in which to understand? You focus on the most important things; those become your values. You set your values. Well, maybe you don't purposefully do it, but you could say they just form your values into some type of hierarchy. You care about some values more than others, and you are moving towards those values if you truly value them, or at least you should be. I think you both are and should be, but I don't know if you always are. Like if you really, because maybe that becomes a question. If you truly value something, are you inevitably going to move towards it? So like, I mean, drug addiction is I've been watching Euphoria, and I have some knowledge of drug addiction, not obviously personally, but some pretty close associations that have a great deal of understanding. But I'm just saying, if say you have a value and and you're not moving towards it, is that because it's not actually so as much a value as you think that it is, or is it because even if you do have a very mapped specific value and you're not moving toward and you just aren't moving towards it? I don't know if those are the same things, different, or if it matters. Just food for thought. Like for me, I say that I have a value, or one of my values. I don't know if you would really call it a value. It's like values. Jordan Peterson just said this. He said values are it's like you're staking a claim. If I move closer to this, then X or me will be better. I will be better if I move towards this value. It's what you're aiming at. So I have an aim to talk to interesting people, in part to understand the world better and understand myself, to operate in it better. That's the goal of this. Through my podcast, I want to, get more people to hear about it, get more people to listen, and talk to more interesting people. Those are some goals I have, some aims. And if I'm not actively doing that, or if I don't consider myself to be actively doing that, I experience negative emotion. Or I'm not sure if it's that I experience negative emotion or if it's that I don't experience positive emotion. I'm not sure if those things are the same thing or different. So that's why I have to do this podcast. I don't have a choice. Because if I don't, then I'm going to not experience positive emotion. Because one of the mechanisms for dopamine release, I believe, is yourself saying, yes, you are in fact moving towards that goal in which you set. And that's Peterson again. God, he's so fucking brilliant. It makes me sick when people say he's ignorant. He says that it's scary to define what you want because then once you've defined it and you don't move towards it, if you don't do the steps necessary to take to move towards it, you'll know it. And it'll feel awful, which it does. I'm sure everyone that's watching, the 0 people that are watching, so I'll just say to myself, Max, when you have something you want and you know it and you aren't actively going towards it, that's why failure hurts. Yeah, it sucks. Failure sucks. But at least when you fail, maybe fail in a step towards action, in an actionable step in which you believe will help facilitate the reaching of your goal, then at least you were trying to reach your goal. But when you do nothing, that's when you're just immobilized and you hate yourself. I've definitely experienced that when I feel like I should be doing something and I know the thing I should be doing and I don't do it, even though I'm doing a lot of other things at the same time. I felt those feelings of being like, damn, I don't feel as good as I do when I'm actively moving towards that thing in which I know I should be moving towards. So it's really important to set good goals and then actually do them. Because if you just set good goals and then don't move towards them, it'll probably be worse. Let's see. I mean, is it even a useful question to say, would you rather have no goals or would you rather have really great goals? Because I think once you have really good goals, I was about to argue the opposite, but I would probably say now that if you have really good goals, you're going to subconsciously move maybe just an inch closer to them as versus if you had no goals at all. So I'm going to say it is, as a general rule, set really good goals, and then you better hope that you move towards them, because if you don't, you're not going to experience any positive emotion. One question I have is that, so Adam and Eve, they're in the Garden of Eden. They're in this walled garden, this paradise. Paradisa is a walled garden. And they're not self-conscious yet. And then I think the snake gives the apple to Eve, and then does Eve give the apple to Adam? I can deduce that because I remember that Adam says to God, Adam says, it was the woman, which was funny. So I think that's how it happened. And so how is eating the apple, and is it the apple from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which I don't really understand because that's just a lot. But why is it that Eve gives the apple to Adam, and is that actually what happened? Basically, I'm saying, why do the scales fall from their eyes? What was that? What was the jump from nothing or animal-like perception and cognition to human self-consciousness, the kind that we had 15,000 years ago and the kind that we had today? I don't know what made that jump, and if there is a jump between the kind of self-consciousness we had 15,000 years ago and the kind that we have today. We have a lot more information. That's what I was listening, and it was saying that I forget why. Sorry, I'm just fucking with my thing on my leg. Sorry. We've already been over this. There's too much information in the world. So as we have access to this, basically, to us, infinite amount of information on the internet, it's like, we're consuming so much of it. Our brain doesn't know what to do with that kind of information, because where in evolution would we ever have had to develop an ability to process so much information? I always think, like, our cognitive ability, our entire, whatever you call this, maybe connected with the body, call that cognitive ability, it developed in reaction, right? Developed in reaction, and as a preventative measure, somewhere situated in a strange niche right between the past and the future, born out of the past, looking into the future, which is strange because how does evolution, a mechanism that creates, look into the future? I don't know. But where on the plains of Africa, or where when we were in the trees, or before that, or where when we were when we transitioned to agriculture 15,000 years ago, where did we develop the ability to process such an absurd amount of information? We didn't. So what happens when we're processing? Yo! Oh, sorry. Half pesto chicken, half sausage. Oh, shit. I mean, whatever you said is fine. What did you say? Sorry. Food ordering issues. Because I let Dad handle it, and I'm overly specific and complicated. I mean, it wasn't that difficult of an order. It was a half chicken pesto, half sausage. He said he's been on the phone for 5 minutes trying to figure it out. I don't know where the blame lies. Maybe there's no blame at all. Maybe I should just be thankful that I get to have a pizza at all. Because pizza's great. And a lot of people don't have the opportunity at pizza. That's what it all comes back to. Gratitude. Because you'll kill yourself Sorry. Be appreciative. It's like when you're sick and you just said, oh, if I just wasn't sick right now, then everything would be perfect. And then you become well, and then there's something else. There's some goal in which you're not doing your best to achieve, and your brain's going, fuck you, you're doing an awful job at this whole thing. You're messing everything up. Really, you should just be thankful that you're not sick. It's a metaphor. If you want, I could probably use it a little bit more. But I am really thankful. Because obviously, I literally live the best life. I think you can make an argument that I live the best life. I have the best life. Like, money, education, friends, family, setting, geography, time, just everything I have the best of. So it's like, how dare I ever feel bad? Well, you do feel bad sometimes. So what do you say to that? I don't know. I don't know what you say to that. You say something like, all right, Max, you're here. You're trying to be here. You're here. You're trying to be here. This is great. I'm very, very happy with where I am. I still want to get here. I think I'm making it more complicated when I'm trying to understand how you balance the two philosophies of setting and achieving difficult and important goals, moving from one place to another, and the, I guess you could call it, Buddhist philosophy of being content and at peace with your present circumstances in the present moment. It's like on one side, say you have one grandfather that was a shrewd lawyer, businessman, no nonsense, didn't show a lot of love for his kids, but was goal driven, was an executive executor. He was an executor in all sense. He knew how to move from one place to the next, but he wasn't ever happy with the place that he was. Versus the grandfather who didn't really do too much, but he had a great family. He had a great life, but he never really did anything. But he loved it the whole way. And he was always happy with where he was. He just never really changed. And what are you if you don't change? It's those two things in which I feel like I'm born from. It's almost like it's the choice that Siddhartha was given. He says, I forget how he gets the prophecy. Some healer, someone tells the father that He's going to either be the greatest ascetic. I think I'm pronouncing ascetic right, not aesthetic or athletic or anesthetics. It's ascetic. Or the greatest king, the greatest ruler. So he had those two paths, and his dad, obviously, since being the king, wanted him to follow in his footsteps and be the greatest king. Obviously, Siddhartha became the Buddha, and, saw the suffering of the world, saw the dying man, the sick man, the old man, just all this, the poor, hungry man. He saw all the suffering in the world, and he said, this is kind of fucked. I mean, I don't know how, if given that circumstance, he wouldn't say, okay, I'm going to try to rule and provide those people with a better life, because as a rule, I'll have more capital and I can do more good if I have more capital. That's kind of the Chamath from the All In podcast from Social Capital. Dope guy. If you're listening, which you're not, I would love to speak with you because you're dope. He says, if you have an important worldview, which I believe I do, I want to do good. I want to do good in the world, and I think I will. I really do think I will. I don't know how. Maybe it's through this. Maybe it's through VC. But his thing, which I completely agree with, is that if you get the capital, as he says, get the money. If you get the capital, you will be able to act on the world with more force, and more force for good. So in that moment, if I was Siddhartha, maybe I would have chosen the path of the ruler. I'm not sure. I mean, thank God he didn't, because he's a Buddha, and the Buddha's teachings, I feel like, positively influenced a huge swath of the world's population, and maybe even everyone in some way, because we're all interconnected. Who knows? So I guess the meaning of the moral of the story is get the money to do as much good as you possibly can. That is only after you set correct values, set up mechanisms that facilitate the moving towards those values and those aims. And then once you put capital into those mechanisms, they become even stronger, and you will move yourself, and maybe even the world, towards those aims and values in which you set. I don't know what we've just done. I don't know what you would call that. But max depth. That was max depth. Max depth is the trying to understand the world for you to operate in it better, more thoughtfully, and live a better life, and have a net positive impact on the world. I think with that, I'm going to go take a sauna. It's probably at about 1. It's freezing cold right now. It's 20 to 25 degrees on Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts, United States, 2022, January 12th. I start semester number 2 of Georgetown online tomorrow at 11 a.m., my first class. I have a reading to do. Just get prepared. I need to get all my shit locked in, read the syllabuses, syllabi maybe. But I'm feeling good. Willow left today. God, it was a good month. Who knows what's going to come of that? I certainly don't. She's great. When we're here, we're here, and when we're not, we're not. All the best forever and always, Max.